Okay, we're sharing screen. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Well, I think we have someone waiting to get in. 1 second.
It's been added.
Sorry?
I'll keep adding.
Okay. Oh my goodness, it's all so difficult, this stuff. There we are. So the verse today is Canto 1, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Questions by the Sages, Chapter 1, verse number 15. Yatpada Sangshraya Sutta Munaya Prasamayayana Sadya Putantya Pashprishta Swadunyapo Nushevaya. And the translation. The translation. Those great souls, those sutta, those great souls who have, here we are. Yeah, I thought there was someone trying to get in. Who have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, can at once sanctify those who come in touch with them, whereas the waters of the Ganges can sanctify only after prolonged use. Purport: pure devotees of the Lord are more powerful than the waters of the sacred river Ganges. One can derive spiritual benefit out of prolonged use of the Ganges water, but one can be sanctified at once by the mercy of a pure devotee of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that any person, regardless of birth as Shudra, woman, or merchant, can take shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, and by so doing can return to Godhead. To take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord means to take shelter of the pure devotees. The pure devotees whose only business is serving are honored by the names Prabhupada and Vishnupad, which indicate such devotees to be representatives of the lotus feet of the Lord. Anyone, therefore, who takes shelter of the lotus feet of a pure devotee by accepting the pure devotee as his spiritual master can be at once purified. Such devotees of the Lord are honored equally with the Lord because they are engaged in the most confidential service of the Lord, for they deliver out of the material world the fallen souls whom the Lord wants to return back home, whom the Lord wants to return home, back to Godhead. Such pure devotees are better known as vice lords, according to the revealed scriptures. The sincere disciples of the pure devotee, the sincere disciple of the pure devotee considers the spiritual master equal to the Lord, but always considers himself to be a humble servant of the servant of the Lord. This is the pure devotional path. Umaginati mirandasya gananjana shalakaya chakshurun militam jena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Samtam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Cha. Hey Krishna, Karuna Sindhu, Dina Bandhu, Jagatpate, Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshware Rishabhanu Sute Devi Anamami Hari Priye Vanchkopa Trubhyasta Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namah Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine, Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pastacha Deshatarine. Mukam karoti vachalam pangur gayate guru jatipa tamaham vande Shri Gurundina Taranam. So we're continuing with Shonika Rishi speaking to Sutta. Here somebody else is just coming on. Speaking to Sutta Goswami. Sutta Goswami is being proposed or being positioned by the sages at Naimisharanya as the person most eligible to speak to them regarding the questions that they have. He heard Srimad Bhagavatam from Sukadev Goswami when Sukadev Goswami spoke the Bhagavatam to Maharaj Pariksit sometime before this. From the point where Sutta starts speaking in chapter 2 to where we see he begins reciting from where Sukadev Goswami appears at the place where Pariksit Maharaj is sat down on the banks of the Jamuna just outside of Hastinapur to spend the last 7 days of his life, having been cursed by the son of the Brahmin. That begins really in chapter 19 of the first canto and the first chapter of the second canto. So what we will have then is Sutta Goswami giving a lot of background, historical background of what occurred, excuse me, what occurred to lead up to that point, to get to that point where Pariksit Maharaj is questioning Sutta Goswami, all of which, of course, is Srimad Bhagavatam, because it deals with so many topics relating to the presence of the Lord on this planet 5,000 years ago. So he's being chosen as the person most qualified to speak to the sages at Naimisharanya. And one of the particular qualifications of a person becoming qualified to speak on behalf of the Supreme Lord, about the Supreme Lord. And of course, when we speak about the Supreme Lord, we always speak about the Supreme Lord and his devotees, because the Lord is never alone. He's always in the association of his devotees. And this is very, very, very confidential information, the most confidential information. And therefore, if you have questions about anything, you will seek out somebody qualified to answer those questions. So, in the matter of the subject of the absolute truth, it becomes a very, let's say, rarefied atmosphere in terms of A, the questions you ask, and B, finding the person's actually qualified to answer those questions. Just like in the world of science and the publishing of learned papers on different subject matters, there's such a thing called peer review. In other words, people who write for and read certain journals about discussions of scientific matters present their subjects, present what they've written to peers. In other words, people in the scientific field who, first of all, can understand what's being discussed, the terminology and so forth, can actually understand it. It's not that just anyone and everyone can sit down and read a scientific journal and understand what's being discussed. We may have some sense of science, just like 2 and 2 equals 4, that's mathematics. And therefore we have some sense of mathematics. But just because we understand that 2 and 2 equals 4, it doesn't mean we can read an article on quantum physics, the mathematics of quantum physics, and understand it. So there's a process of learning and a process of understanding that we have to enter into. And we can't jump ahead of where we are. We have to take things step by step by step. It's not that, I mentioned about quantum physics. It doesn't matter because we have a basic understanding of something that we can take a quantum leap into very refined understandings. And the Srimad Bhagavatam deals with the subject matter of the absolute truth as a person. And this is the most confidential knowledge in regard to understanding the absolute truth. The absolute truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And as he says about himself in the Bhagavad Gita, Naham Prakasha Savasha Yoga Maya Samavrita Mudo Yam Navijanati Loko Mam Ajam Avyayam. That I am never revealed to foolish and unintelligent people who think that I, Krishna, am a product of the material energy. And this is a fundamental point that Srila Prabhupada deals with again and again and again and again and again throughout his works, that we have to come to the understanding that although Krishna appears in the material world and appears to behave as a human being, just like we see later on in chapter 7 of the first canto, where Krishna and Arjuna pursue Ashwatthama because he's killed the sons of the Pandus, illegally killed the sons of the Pandus. They capture him, and there's a description there of how Krishna's eyes were red with rage, just as Arjuna was angry. Krishna was also angry. That's because Krishna was taking part in human activities, and he was acting as a human being in that situation. And he was a friend of Arjuna, family member of Arjuna, actually, but also a very close friend of Arjuna. And there'd been an infanticide in their family, and that caught the culprit. So naturally, there was a lot of anger. So something like that can be utilized by an atheistic person or someone who's actually envious of Krishna, to say, look, see, he's just like you. He's just like any normal person. He's not God. God is like this, like that, like the other. But actually, this is a subject of great confidentiality. Krishna is never revealed to someone who does not want to accept him as he is, somebody who wants to place some interpretation on his identity. And that's a big problem, again, in the study of the Bhagavad Gita itself. Krishna's words, Krishna's most fundamental teachings in the Bhagavad Gita are interpreted by many, many commentators without the understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Personality, that Krishna is Vasudeva Savamiti. So many statements Krishna makes about himself in the Bhagavad Gita, which are actually denied by persons who do not actually accept Krishna on as saying, as self-evident. If you want to learn anything, you approach the subject with certain things as given. Yeah, just like if you want to study geometry, it's given that a right angle is 90 degrees, that an acute angle is less than 90 degrees, an obtuse angle is more than 90 degrees. If you want to, these things are given. They're not something that you have to justify the existence of. You, on the basis of those things, and that all of the angles of a triangle must add up to 360 degrees. So then all of those things and the same, that actually all of the angles of any like a square, they have to add up to 360 degrees. There are certain given things that you accept, and on the basis of that, you go forward. So it's a given, and it's given by Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita, that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that he is the source of everything. So many verses. Mata parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mai savamidang protam sutre maniganariva aham savasya prabhavo iti matva bhajante mam. So many verses as we go through Bhagavad Gita. Bahunam janmanam ante yanavan mam prapajyate vasudeva savamiti sa mahatma sudulabha. Krishna again and again and again makes it very clear. I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm the one who knows everything. I'm the source of everything. Now, these are generic symptoms of God. If you want to analyze the qualities of the source of everything known as God in so many revealed literatures, you come up with this: God is all-knowing, God is almighty, God is omnipresent, God, all of these things. These are characteristics of God. God being the position. God is the name of a position, just like actually Sutta here is the name of a position. Sutta, Romahashana is his name. Romahashana Sutta, Sutta. There's Sutta, which is son, Romahashana Sutta, and then Sutta. Sutta means speaker, reciter, just like Vyas. Vyas means compiler or separator or compartmentalizer. So we have the Vyas who compiles the Vedic literature. Actually, he's Dvaipayana. His name is Dvaipayana, but he's Vyas. So God is the position, just like father is a position. But every father is an individual person. President of America, Prime Minister of Australia. These are positions, but they're occupied by a person. So, who is God? That's the question. Who is God? Who is the person who occupies, who has the qualities to occupy this position? And there is only one person who has these qualities. And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's basically saying, that's me, folks. Here I am. And Arjuna agrees to it in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. You can read for yourself, or we can actually have a quick look at that. In the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, or rather Arjuna says, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan, Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adi Devam Ajam Vibhun, Ahustvam Rishaya Save, Devashir Naradas Tata, Asito Devalo Vyasa, Swayam Chaiva Varishime. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest. All the great sages such as Narad, Asita, Devala, Vyasa confirmed this truth about you, and now you yourself are declaring it to me. So, just as a side point to this, you might, there's a very, very, very talented, learned young devotee by the name of Amarendra, who has a YouTube channel that you might want to subscribe to. I would recommend you do subscribe to and hear him on many, many subjects. The point I'm bringing up now is that there is one lecture he gives saying, I think the title is Krishna is God, says who? And then he goes through so many references in scriptures by great personalities who all agree Krishna is God. Very interesting. You'll find that very enlightening. So coming back to this, where we are today, those great sages who have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord can at once sanctify those who come in touch with them, whereas the waters of the Ganges can sanctify only after prolonged use. The point I'm getting around to is that the most confidential knowledge is Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the only way we can come in contact with this knowledge is by coming in contact with a great sage who has completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. And that shelter, hearing from that personality, can at once sanctify anyone who comes in touch with such a person. The importance of language and the importance of hearing underpins all of this. Therefore, I just would like to, just as a quick refresher, have again a look at the third verse of the first chapter of the first canto. I'd spent a lot of time on this in previous weeks, but just to go over it again, this verse, Nigama Kalpa Torogalitam Phalam, Shuka Mukad, Amrita Drava Samyutam, Pibata Bhagavatam Rasam Alayam, Mohoraho Rasikabu Vibhavukaha. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Until and unless one comes in contact with a pure devotee of the Lord, who has absolutely no misgivings about Krishna, no doubts about Krishna, who accepts Krishna as he is and is totally surrendered to Krishna. Until and unless we come in contact with such a person, we will never come to the full understanding of reality. Krishna says, Mata parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya maisa vamidang protam sutre mani ganariva. There is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. There is no truth superior to Krishna. Everything rests upon Krishna as pearls are strung on a thread. This is such important information. Because you think about that idea of pearls strung on a thread. You don't see the thread. You see the beautiful string of pearls. You don't see the thread. But if the thread gets cut, then there is no uniformity anymore. Everything just has no meaning. The pearls just scatter everywhere. Everything rests upon Krishna as pearls are strung on a thread. A very beautiful, beautiful example. Actually, Krishnadas Kaviraj says that true eloquence is truth spoken succinctly. In other words, Krishna's not wasting any words here to say something so clearly and so precisely. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. So until you come to know Krishna, you don't really know the meaning of anything. You know, because everything exists in relationship to Krishna. How it exists in relationship to Krishna gives rise to, in any field of understanding, you come to mathematics, physics, economics, architecture, so on, and engineering, any subject, biology, any subject, how all of these things are actually resting on Krishna. Each of those fields is a very great science. But the reality is, everything is resting on me as pearls are strung on a thread. First of all, take that point. Then you may research any subject to actually understand, or actually then shine that light of knowledge into that subject, that this subject rests on Krishna. Krishna is the active principle in everything. Without Krishna, nothing happens. Actually, Prabhupada, in one discussion, says consciousness actually means Krishna consciousness. Until you are actually conscious of Krishna and these facts about Krishna, then you're actually not conscious. You're not fully conscious. Your consciousness is partial. We're conscious. We're conscious of things. We're conscious. I'm conscious of this little piece of cork on my desk. I'm conscious that it's there. I have consciousness of things, but I do not have complete consciousness until I understand that nothing exists without Krishna. You may ask the question, why does anything exist? And Prabhupada's, I've mentioned this many times, I'll mention it again. Practically the last thing Prabhupada dictated in his purports to Srimad Bhagavatam was, everything is acting. Everything is acting, moving under the supreme desire of Krishna. This consciousness is Krishna consciousness. Now, the central point of what I'm talking about today is here in this verse. Unless one ultimately takes complete shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, and takes shelter, first of all, then before that, takes shelter of one who has completely taken shelter of Krishna, who in turn has completely taken shelter of one who has taken shelter of Krishna, and on and on and on back through the practical infinity of time in this world, then Krishna is never revealed. You can't discover Krishna by looking down a microscope or looking out through a telescope or going and assaying some minerals somewhere or doing anything. Any form of any attempt to discover Krishna will never be successful. Krishna is not revealed to anyone and everyone, because this is the most confidential knowledge. The most confidential knowledge. And until and unless you want it, you won't come in contact with a person who's completely taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Just won't happen. Because there's a very important verse in the fourth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. There's 3 verses there that make a lot of sense. 9, 10, and 11. 9 says, this is the famous Janma Kama Chame Divyam Evam Yovati Tatvatah Chaktva Deham Puna Janma Naiti Mamati Sojuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Vitaraga bhaya krodha, manmaya mamu pashuta, bahavogyana tapasa puta madbhavam agata. Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me, and taking refuge in me, many, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attain transcendental love for me. Ye yata mam prapadyante tangstataiva bhajamyaham mamavat manuvatante manushapata savashaha. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Prita. Krishna reciprocates with everyone according to what he says here, according to how they surrender to me. And that is underpinned by your desire. How we surrender to doing anything, and we have to surrender. The process of surrender is entailed in everything we do. But we try to do what we want to do, and therefore we willingly accept the surrendering process. It's an if-then proposition. If you want to become anything, there's a way of getting there. And that involves surrendering to do this and don't do this. Just like if you want to become an athlete, you have to surrender to a process of training in a certain way. And it varies for different athletics. If you want to become an expert freestyle swimmer, there's a regimen of training for that. You don't go and train with the local soccer club. There's a different regime of training for that, but they're still athletes. So it's full of variegatedness, what I'm talking about. But it is all ultimately based on what you want. And Krishna reciprocates and is reciprocating at every moment with every living entity according to whatever desires they have and whatever ways in which they have surrendered to the process of achieving those desires. Now, when it comes to him, he says again, Savadaman parityaja, mam ekam sharanam vaja, aham tvam savapapebhyo mokshayishyami ma asucha. You just abandon all forms of dharmic activity and surrender to me. Just surrender to me. And how is that done? Well, that's what Krishna's speaking the Bhagavad Gita for, to make it very clear how you do that. How do you surrender to Krishna? Well, we go to 434. What does he say in 434? Everybody knows it. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadikshyanti te jnanam jnaninas tatvadashina. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. So let's go now to our verse today again. O Sutta. Those great souls who have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord can at once sanctify those who come in touch with them. Sanctify those who come in touch. Who are these? Those great sages, those spiritual masters who have completely taken shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord. They can at once sanctify at once. So let's just have a quick look. Who knows what sanctify means? Where are we? P, language. Dictionaries, English dictionary. Where are we? Sorry. Lost it there for a second. English dictionary. Oh, I've got to shift this, sorry. There we are. Language dictionary, English. Oh, there we are, sorry. Got to sort this out sometime. I'm a bit, there we are, dictionary. Depends. Taking a little time. There we are. Sanctify. Sanctify. What is sanctify? Well, there's a cleanse. These are the thesaurus of it, different words. Consecrate, approve, cleanse, redeem, purify, absolve, exculpate, back you, support you, sanction you, endorse you, authorize you, ratify you, vindicate you, bless you, ordain you, anoint you, set you apart, hallow you, beautify you, make you sacred. Sanctification comes from to come in contact with the lotus feet of a pure devotee of the Lord. To come in contact with the lotus feet of the pure devotee of the Lord does all these things for you. Yeah. So there it is. Very simple. Very, very simple process. And actually, it applies down the line, no matter how much of an aberration you have from that basic principle. Doesn't matter what the subject is. It doesn't matter. You have to approach somebody who knows their subject. And you can't approach them in a challenging way. You can't force them to do anything. You have to approach in a humble way. And actually, real knowledge makes you humble. Like we see in Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Vidya Vinaya Sampane, Brahmane Gavi Hastini. The humble sage, Vidya means the sage, the seer, Vinaya, humble. If you want knowledge, you have to be humble. And the more knowledge you get, the more humble you become. Because you begin to understand your position in the scheme of things. And ultimately, when you come to complete knowledge of the absolute truth, then you become completely humble. You become naturally completely humble. Because you understand this reality. Everything depends upon Krishna. And you've got to that point through pursuing a desire to know something. So where does desire itself come from? Everything comes from Krishna. So desire itself comes from Krishna. And therefore there's a very important sentence in this purport. Such devotees of the Lord are honored equally with the Lord because they are engaged in the most confidential service of the Lord. Because they deliver out of the material world the fallen souls whom the Lord wants to return home back to Godhead. This is the desire of Krishna, that we all come back to him. This is a beautiful sentence. Such devotees, who? The devotees we are talking about, the pure devotees of the Lord, the great sages who have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Such devotees are honored equally with the Lord. Why? Because they are engaged in the most confidential service of the Lord, which is to deliver out of the material world the fallen souls. Why? Whom the Lord wants to return home, back to Godhead. They have understood the desire of the Lord. They have understood the desire of the Lord, and they have made the desire of the Lord their only desire. I think that's enough for today. Does anybody have any questions or comments they want to make? Or reflections on anything that they've heard today? Or thoughts that anything?
Just something that I found really interesting was what people's names mean and what Sutta means and what Vasudev means. Is that the case for all spiritual names, or is that just for some of them?
It's the case for all names, Nick.
Right.
I mean, you can get a book on, what does Nicola mean? You can get. Let's do a little exercise on that. Okay, we'll share screen again, and we'll go into, where are we? We'll go into here again, and we'll do, what is the meaning of Nicola? Here we go. Nicola, names, Wikipedia. Well, let's have a look at this. This is interesting. Nicola is a Latinized version of the Greek personal name Nikolaos, derived from Nikos, meaning victory, and Laos, meaning people, therefore implying the meaning victory of the people. The English form of the same name is Nicholas. Less commonly, the name is spelled Nicola or Nicola. So there it goes. You can go on. What does Nicola mean in the Bible? Is Nicola a rare name? And you can do that with any name. Any name. So it's the same in Sanskrit. And it's like we see Trivikrama. Trivikrama is the name of Lord Vamana. Tri means three, and Vikrama means big steps. Yes? So all names have meanings. All names have meanings. Okay?
Thank you. Yeah, it's really, really interesting. The Sanskrit ones, they're cool.
It's very interesting.
Thank you.
Bhagawat of Bhagawat, of the Bhagawata. Asraya. So Bhagawat means that he gives devotees. And so on and so on and so on. So name after name, you can find the meaning. Okay?
I missed what that was, Bhagavat. Would you please repeat that? What does your name mean? It became, the connection was distorted for a moment.
All right. It's the name of Krishna. Bhagavata. A Bhagavata is a devotee of Bhagavan. Bhagavan is the name of Krishna, and a Bhagavata is a devotee of Bhagavan. So Asraya means the shelter of. So Krishna.
Oh, there you go.
Something's gone very funny here for a minute. We'll start again. Are you hearing me properly, or is my voice all funny?
Yes. No, I can hear you properly. Thank you.
Okay. So, but what didn't you hear?
I heard you saying
everything about Bhagavan and Bhagavata.
That Bhagavat is a, maybe you should just repeat it because I'll probably paraphrase it badly, if you don't mind.
Bhagavata is a devotee of Bhagavan, and Asraya means shelter of. So,
Shelter of.
so Bhagawat Asraya is a name of Krishna, which means he who gives shelter to his devotees.
That's beautiful.
And so on. So many.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Okay. So who has their hand up there? Who is that? Is that Namchintamani wants to ask or say something?
Yes, Prabhu, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Krishna. Prabhu, I heard at the start you said that we can't jump ahead, too far ahead, and we need to go step by step, and we need to go through the learning process. Could you speak a little more about that? And what does that learning process look like?
Well, it depends. That's a relative question also, because let's say we start from ground zero here. We start from everybody goes to school and then they learn the alphabet. And you learn the alphabet as a, b, s, k, d, e, like that. Later on, you learn it as A, B, C, D, E. And then you learn how to put letters together to make sounds, la, cat, sat, on, da, mat. So in this way, you're learning language and you're learning to read. So everybody starts from the same point. But then one person has a propensity to read one thing and another person has a propensity to read another thing. And then they need to learn that subject. So then they have to go to somebody who knows that subject, who then teaches through this thread of language that we're all on the thread of language somewhere or another, but it leads us into subjects. And then we have teachers in those subjects who teach us the basics of those teachings. And then we either go on further into more complex understandings of each subject or not. But unless you are introduced to the subject by somebody who knows the subject, even if it's just to read a book by that person, that's the way it goes. It's a very, am I making it clear? Is the point clear? Or is there something more you want elaborated about it?
Yes, I was thinking that Srila Prabhupada has given us in his purports, he gives what Krishna wants, the heart of Krishna, and we can read that. But then I was thinking that really what that means is only revealed to us when we're ready or when we're purified. So is that what it means? Like it's like an open secret, like the books are there for anyone to read, but that the realization of it is that's revealed by Krishna as we become qualified to receive that. Is that what you were meaning when you said that learning, it's a learning process? We can't just jump ahead of our level of where we are too far ahead.
Yes, you cannot pretend to be on a platform of knowledge and realization that you're not on. And you'll always come undone if you do. So therefore, one must adopt a position of humility. Just as Arjuna says to Krishna, I'm confused. I've lost all equilibrium due to miserly weakness. I'm confused about my duty, so now I'm surrendering to you. Please instruct me. Then on the basis of that, begins to instruct him. And then Arjuna asks questions and Krishna reveals more. So it pays to have confidential relationships with more qualified persons than yourself at all stages of the development of your understanding of any subject, not just this one, any subject. That's why I said before, right at the beginning, every scientist who writes or wants to have something published, it has to go to a peer review before it can be published. Everyone has to agree that, well, yeah, he knows what he's talking about here and it makes sense. It might not make sense to anyone else, but those who know the subject can give a review of it. I mean, right up to the point that, you know, if you want to do a PhD, and it doesn't matter how many PhDs you might want to do, and you need a supervisor. And even if you are a person with PhDs who supervises people who are doing PhDs, if you want to do a PhD, then you have to have a supervisor for it. It never ends. One should never think, well, you know, I know it all now, because there's only one person who knows it all. Vedaham samatitani vartamanani cha bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu vedana kastina. Only Krishna knows everything. And so, and everyone in the totality of all that is, everything exists on the basis of what you need to know about it. We all live on a need to know basis. And until and unless you need to know something, you don't need to know it. It's as simple as that. And then once you start to want to know something about anything, the thing that you really become aware of is you think you know so much, but you just don't know anything. And no matter how much you learn, what there is to learn is still inconceivably vast and beyond you. So therefore, humility is required. And it never ends. It never ends. So therefore, we see here, Shaunaka Rishi is no slouch, and all the sages at Naimisharanya, they're highly learned, capable people. But they appoint Sutta Goswami to speak to them and answer their questions. And you see all the way through here, Shaunaka Rishi is the spokesman for these sages. He is recognized as being qualified to be the spokesman. But his approach to Sutta Goswami is very humble, very aware of who he's talking to, very aware that the person he's talking to knows more than him and can reveal that knowledge. But Krishna says, I'm never revealed to foolish and unintelligent people who are puffed up and proud, envious, and so on. There's a way that one acquires knowledge, always. And it begins actually with, first of all, I need to know because I don't know. Simple as that. I don't know something. You do. You know it. Please give me your knowledge. Please give me your knowledge. And then there's prerequisites in everything. Therefore, tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. You approach a bona fide spiritual master, Tadvidi, those who are in knowledge. Try to understand, try to get knowledge. Why? By approaching. How to approach? Pranipatina. I'm not a Sanskrit scholar, but we could break that word down. But it leads to, actually, pranipat means like a stick, to fall down like a stick, completely actually make yourself vulnerable to, submissive to, subject to, respectful of such a person. Then pariprashnena, submissive inquiries, not challenging inquiries, submissive inquiries, not disrespectful inquiries. And then upadekshanti te. Upadekshanti means they will initiate you. They will give you knowledge. The third thing is seva. You render service. You give service, unpaid service. If those things, if you fulfill those three requirements, then upadekshanti te jnanam, you'll be given knowledge. If you don't, you won't. Yes, Sarah, is that okay?
Yes, thank you very much. It's very nice. Thank you.
Sarah.
Hello, Bhagawat, Prabhu. I'm sorry I wasn't here to greet you. I was attending a wombat outside. He's got mange, so whenever I see him, I run out with some essential oils and try to treat him.
Well, I'm glad you did. I'm glad you were doing that.
Yeah, but so I'm sorry I wasn't here to greet you. I suppose the question I have is, how to find it. I mean, I consider you're our spiritual master.
Oh, you satisfied lady. I'm sorry.
But I'm assuming, and I don't know if I've got this right, but when in this verse, when you're saying we must approach a spiritual master, are you talking specifically about like initiating guru?
No, an instructing guru to start with.
Instructing guru. Okay.
First you take instruction.
First you take instruction.
Instruction. You have to well, first of all, I'm just like I'm just like a crippled donkey trying to pull his master's cart. But on that cart, there's some really good books you can read. You first of all, come to the conclusion, or try to come to the understanding, the conclusion that Srila Prabhupada is your spiritual master. He's your Shiksha Guru. And anyone who may be able to impart his instructions to you in a way or relate his instructions to you in a way which resonates with the way those instructions resonate with you directly from reading, then you can gain some faith from that you're on the right path. But you have to trust your own knowing in this regard. You've come to where you've come to because Krishna has guided you. Krishna is with you. So the ultimate, the guru is Krishna. So any any person who in any way is able to faithfully, to any degree, represent Krishna, then you can take guidance from that person. But ultimately, it's about what you do with what you receive. Because the core of the matter is we're all going to die. That's the beauty of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The whole of Sukadev's instruction in chapter 19 of the first, and from there on, the fundamental question that Parikshit asks Sukadev is what should one do when he is on the threshold of death? On the threshold of death. Whereas Parikshit's benediction is he knows he's got 7 days. We don't even know whether we've got 7 seconds. But we're all on the threshold of death. So we're all just passing through this world. Just like we've all tuned into this little Zoom program here. It'll be over in a few minutes and we'll all go our own way. And what we do with the rest of the day is up to us. So that's life. We're all on an individual journey in this world. We all came to this world because of an individual desire. And we will stay in this world so long as we have those, any desire to try and enjoy it. But the nature of it all is that it's temporary and we have to change our position. So we're all on our way somewhere else, always. The beauty of what we're being offered is that we can choose that destination that Krishna wants. I'll go back to the verse. It's there where I've lost it. Where are we? Did I get away from it? Yeah, here we are. Where I, then I just killed it, idiot that I am. But in the verse today, that last sentence, Krishna wants us to all come back to him. We're all going to die. One day soon, we're all going to die and we have to go somewhere else. So Krishna's saying, you come to me. And how do you come to me? You think of me. Learn to think of me. Somehow or other, Prabhupada says, somehow or other, mold your life in such a way that you're always thinking of me, of Krishna. Krishna says, Manmana, you think of me. And if you think of me at the moment of death, then you will come to me. And he says, I promise you this. I promise you this. So really, accepting a genuine spiritual master, or being able to accept a genuine spiritual master, is because the spiritual master in your heart knows your desire and has brought you to the point where you can hear what you need to hear. But then you must apply it, because we all land our own plane. We may fly in formation, excuse me. Throughout life, you may fly in a formation with a family, with a community, with a society, whatever. Ducks and everybody flies with others. But then you have to land your own plane. So, we're always having to make the best of a bad bargain in this world. And you should consider yourself well, you may consider yourself a very fortunate person, because somewhere or another, by the grace of the Lord, you've come in contact with Srila Prabhupada, who is unquestionably one of these great sages that suttas that Shonik is talking about. And your life has become sanctified beyond all imagination simply by that. So just stick with it and don't ever give it up.
Thank you.
That was probably one of Prabhupada's most fervent requests to everyone. Now that you've come into this Krishna consciousness, don't ever leave, no matter what. Does that answer your question?
Yes, no, thank you. It's beautiful.
Mm.
Leaving Krishna consciousness would be worse than death.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. You're already experiencing that. You're already experiencing that. Good fortune has arisen in your life. Just take it. That's it. Just take it. There's another question here. Ujjvala Rush, you have a question or a comment?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu, for a wonderful class. I wanted to ask you a quick question. Like you mentioned, we should always remain deeply connected to Krishna consciousness and to Srila Prabhupada. So life after life, how do we ensure we do that? Because every life throws many distractions. So this life, we have decided to walk this path, but we don't know the next life and the next life. So how do we ensure that we deeply, deeply remain under Srila Prabhupada's movement?
I think he lost his.
Yeah, I think we can't hear him.
No, he lost his connection probably. So just wait for a couple of minutes.
Mm.
Join back. I think it's already 9:23 a.m. I think the interest of time, and the class is almost finished. So probably we can close here, and we will meet again next week. Um, Next Saturday is going to be Govardhan Puja. So hopefully we'll see you all in the temple. So with this, we can close the class, and Gantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Vijay.
Jai.
Hare
His
Krishna.
Grace Bhagavad Ashar Prabhu ki jai.
Vijay.
Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Pura Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
All
Oh,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna. Thank you.